the more that you can tap into a great story that is emotional, appealing, it's true, of course, and it is personal, it is human, the more people will be interested in your business, especially investors.
Welcome to the Kind Boss podcast, brought to you by Outsourcing Angel, an Australian-based social enterprise that specializes in helping business owners free up their time and reduce staffing costs, while helping to create employment opportunities for people in developing countries. Visit outsourcingangel.com today. Now, let me welcome your host, Linh Podetti.
Hello, kind listeners. I'm your host, Linh Podetti. Today, we'll be speaking to a kind boss, Franziska Iseli, founder of Basic Bananas, The Business Hood, and Ocean Lovers. Franziska is a maverick entrepreneur, leading marketing and brand strategist, and mad adventurer. She is also the author of 3 best-selling books, Bananas About Marketing, Perception, and The Courage Map. In 2013, Franziska was awarded the Young Entrepreneur of the Year award, recognizing her innovation, creativity, and philanthropic involvement. In addition to managing her businesses, she is a board member at the Global Entrepreneurs Organization, EO, and sits on the judging panel for Singularity University. Franziska is also a big believer in social business and is heavily involved in various ocean conservation and sustainability projects. Listen on as she shares how her expansive vision and eternal optimism makes her believe that there is no challenge that is too big for Franziska, and how she harnesses her rare combination of being both creative and strategic to become a powerful leader in the business world. Hi everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Kind Boss podcast. And today I have Franziska Iseli. How are you?
Wow, your name was, how you pronounce this was excellent. Thank you, and thanks for having me.
So your accent, where is that from?
Oh my God, which accent?
Don't have an Aussie accent, all right? Be honest.
No, I know, it's so funny. People always say, hey, what's with your accent? I'm like, what accent? I'm actually Australian now. The funny part of this is that I have been in Sydney, in Australia for 15 years, and I'm a Swiss Australian, so I grew up in Switzerland, and I still have this crazy accent.
You must have came when you were a lot later, right? Because when I came, I was only 9, so I kind of lost my Vietnamese accent. But what age did you come over?
That's the age question, isn't it?
Yeah.
So I came at 23, and I'm 38 now.
I'm 37. We're not far off from each other. But yeah, once you get past 20 something, I don't think it's too late. You can't change it. But where did Basic Bananas came from? And tell me more about Basic Bananas.
Yeah, so one of our companies, which I started this together with my ex-husband 11 years ago. And I came from advertising and branding. So when I was working in advertising, I realized that there is a gap for small business owners to get access to really good marketing and knowledge that we had in advertising. So a lot of our clients obviously were corporations that had big budgets, and so they could afford us and our knowledge and our strategies, but not so much small businesses. And I live on the Northern Beaches in Sydney. This place is full of small businesses, and I would just see a lot of small businesses and business owners struggle and doing really bad marketing and the branding, and it was just, there's something missing here. And so my ex-husband and I started Basic Bananas with the purpose to educate small business owners and to offer mentoring programs. And we've been doing this for 11 years now. The name, people always say, what about this name? Why is it called Basic Bananas? There's a funny story. So when we first started, I had no idea about business or how to run a business. I came from advertising and never had run my own business before. And so I had a mentor, and she said, you can't call this business Basic Bananas. You need to call this something like Marketing Institute Australia. I'm like, yeah, but nah. So I said, Sharon, I can't run a business called Marketing Institute Australia. It's not reflective of my brand at all. And I knew about branding. So I might not have known much about how to run a business, but I knew branding and marketing. And so we came up with all these different random names. The 2 finalists were Tango Like a Mango. It's a bit
What a cute name, but yeah, hard to pronounce or hard to say. Yeah.
A bit too long for a name. And then we also had Basic Bananas, and we sort of justified the name later. I mean, it's nice to have BB It's in the name, that's quite nice. And also now people often or in the beginning, even when they saw anything to do with bananas, they would send us pictures of bananas and jokes about bananas. So it was very good in terms of marketing and spreading the word. And also we then justified that, well, bananas make you happy. They have a happy thing inside, and ingredients. And also banana trees grow really fast. So we're all about marketing. And basic, because we are known for making marketing understandable.
So is that kind of the typical process where you come up with a name that sounds catchy that you like and then try to give it a meaning? Or is this just your way, a random way, but normally it's not like that?
No, it shouldn't be like that. So normally we also have a branding agency called the Business Hood, and we do a lot of naming and brand building, brand identity, brand strategy. And you definitely don't want to do what we did. We definitely don't want to just get a name and then justify it later. It's better to have the story, have the identity, and have the purpose and what you stand for. And then from that, you come up with a name. So that's a little bit a better line.
Yeah. Okay, got it. You know, my first agency, it was called Red and Black Solutions. And it was because my partner at the time had red hair and I had black hair. And we kind of go Red and Black Solutions. And I think do you think that it's because, you know, when you're starting out, it's really hard to, if someone says, what's your story? What's your thing? It's really hard to articulate until you've been in business for so long that of course, if I start a new business now, I would care more about the story, the brand. Like, what's your thought on kind of startups and, you know, veteran entrepreneurs?
Yeah, I think people should care about it from the beginning if they can. So I do think that now I work with a lot of also startups. It's not our main demographic at Basic Bananas, but I'm also collaborating with Singularity University, and I'm on their judging panel and I do a lot of their branding strategies. And so there are a lot of startups there, and those are quite unique businesses because they often are focused on making a big impact with technology, often innovations. And with them, I always say, you know, the more that you can tap into a great story that is emotional, appealing, it's true, of course, and it is personal, it is human, the more people will be interested in your business, especially investors. I've seen so many investor pitches. I always remember the ones that have a human story. You know, for example, the guy who grew up with a grandma who had a stroke, and then he wanted to figure out how he can help her relearn certain movements. And then he came up with this technology that helps people relearn how to move their bodies. Those are the stories that you remember. So I do think that it makes sense, and it's worth the effort to think about that from the very beginning when you start a business.
Yeah, and I must say, you know, that agency business didn't really succeed. So there you go, right? And I started a nail polish business before that, and I did it because purely thinking I was going to make money. And so what's your thought on people starting a business because they think it's going to make money versus truly waiting for something to come along or wanting to start something that it has a bigger purpose?
It's such a great question. And just when even when you just said that, and I love your candidness and honesty, you know, like when I started nail polish, what was it called?
It was called Chimera, Colors to Cater. You know, it was even CC locked up and looked like a Chanel thing. And I was really proud, but I wasn't even very girly back then. I hated wearing nail polish, but I literally thought I was going to make $1 million in the first year because, hey, there's 1 billion females, right? But it didn't turn out that way.
Yeah, so even when you just said that in the very beginning, before you asked me the question, I was thinking, wow, I wonder if that was a success, because admitted is that you just started it for the money. And that's something I'm seeing all the time with businesses, is that the ones that are driven by something bigger than money, that are driven by making an impact, that are doing it because they really want to do it and they want to add value rather than just making money comes. And of course, you know, you don't have to only follow your passions. I don't believe in that. I believe in playing by your strengths. But then if you can focus on adding value rather than making money, you will make money. It's almost a given if you can add value.
Yeah, definitely. So has Basic Bananas kind of evolved and changed over the last 10, 11 years that you've been in it? Like, was it different before and then now it looks different?
It was sort of very similar for 10 years or so until the pandemic hit.
Yep.
Oh, you know, this is the cool thing about when you have a very big vision, a very big purpose from the beginning. Often the purpose and the vision will stay the same if you truly believe in it. The way that you get there might change. So for us, when we first started, the vision was always to make marketing, mentoring, and our programs available to business owners all around the world. And we started in Sydney first, and we started with face-to-face workshops. So it was us teaching in groups of people. And we started in Sydney, you know, in the very first workshop, we had maybe 3 people attend. It was held at our accountant's office, so we didn't have to pay for, this is 11 years ago, we didn't have to pay for room hire because we couldn't afford it. And we had my mother-in-law and one of my friends and a stranger attend the first session. And this next session, maybe we had 7, and then we had 15, and then we had 20, and then 50, 100. And then we expanded into other cities. We then started running programs in Melbourne, in Brisbane, in Perth, Adelaide, all face-to-face. And we then also trained mentors in our system so that they could run and deliver the programs. Our main program is a 12-month program where business owners come in. It's a small mastermind, small groups. They come in every month to work on their marketing with our mentors. And we had this in every major city in Australia, in Canada, on the West Coast, US West Coast, Switzerland, and only just now starting Sweden. And we're also just looking at partnering with someone in the Middle East. And so when the pandemic hit, of course, we couldn't do face-to-face. So we had to change everything to being online training and virtual workshops with the small groups. And in the first few months, March and April were, wow, I haven't worked this hard in years. Change everything also to make sure that the team are not freaking out and everyone is staying calm and, we're good, it's okay. We didn't have to let anyone go, luckily. So it worked. And now, so that's the major change in the last probably 5-6 months. We've had to change to virtual.
Yeah.
Super duper well.
Yeah. So would you say that prior to the pandemic, every year was predictable, kind of like, increasing growth, and you felt like this is life, right? And the pandemic taught me that anything could happen around the corner. Like, you just never know. I was surprised because you're already online. Did you not have any online aspect to any of your training or program, or was there already a little bit?
There was already a little bit of virtual, but it was mainly our weekly help desk sessions were virtual. And we had our online resources also for people to rewatch the sessions, but we still had the face-to-face. And to be honest, I've wanted to do this for years. And we sometimes had a little bit of a headbutting with my business partner where I'm like, we need to do this virtually also as a solution, because we have people in cities, in places, in remote villages here that can't come face-to-face. Don't want to drive 5 hours to Sydney or to Melbourne, or what do we do with them? We do have also an online program, which is also good, but this is really the cherry on top program, the Clever Bunch. So it sort of forced us to do something I wanted to do forever. And I'm glad that it forced us to do that, because now we also are accessible to a much larger audience, which is really good.
Yeah. So what were some of the key things you were doing during the pandemic? Like, what was your leadership role like at that time?
When you hit a crisis like this, I always say, and I say this also to my friends and partners, business partners, and I always say, when a crisis hit like this, there are people that will do really well. And not because they're in the right industry. They're just people that will do really well. And then there are people that will not do well at all. And generally what I'm seeing is that the people that are doing really well throughout the crisis, a depression, a recession, are the ones that just go for, they just go for it. They lead, they're strong. They're like, okay, I can see there is a poop storm out there, but I'm focused here and I'm leading with courage. And then there are people, and we have country partners. So we have people that are representing basic brands in US, Sweden, Switzerland. And some of our country partners were in one camp. They just put their head in the sand. They're like, oh my God, it's a pandemic. I don't know what to do. And some, they even admitted it. Some of them were like, hey, I just went down a rabbit hole for 3 days reading the news about this and watching videos, and I'm confused and scared and I don't know what to do. So then they're the ones that were like, okay, let's do this. So my role for the first, I'm someone that does really well in a crisis. It just motivates me, because I'm just like, okay, everyone is in crisis mode. Somebody needs to wear the big girl pants. So for the first few months, the focus was really about almost like calming everyone and leading with certainty. So as a leader, when you go through a crisis like this, somebody needs to make the decisions. There needs to be someone that makes a decision, and it's a very black and white decision often. It's not like, maybe we do it. Like, no, this is what we're doing, and everyone is doing this right now. And so there was a lot of that in the beginning, and of course I doubted myself too. Sometimes I'm like, is this the right decision? But I wouldn't show it too much, because the other people needed the certainty. So after maybe 6-8 weeks, the team started to relax and go, okay, things are okay, we're safe. And I had to also keep reinforcing, hey, you're safe, we got this. I do need you to help and collaborate, so we do come out of this stronger. And so, yeah, there's a lot of that going on.
That's amazing. It sounds so much like me. And I felt like it was fire on our asses. Even all of our team felt the fire. And it's actually refreshing because I've never seen you guys work so hard either. And you as a leader, right, we work hard. If I look back, I did regret I was panicking a little bit inside where I was like, let's try something else. And we were trying to sell services for, trying to do a complete different service, what we were doing, only to go, that didn't work. Yeah. Did you try anything silly like that? Like we kind of went down to the path of just anything goes, one small job if you want to outsource to us, and kind of almost desperation, I would say. And then only a month later go, it's not going to work anyway. Yeah. And we went back to what we were doing. Did you try anything like that?
I'm sure I've made a lot of silly decisions in my life, but I feel like through this time, I don't know why, but I've stayed super calm. I mean, very interesting. I mean, I had moments where I'm like, am I delusional? I mean, what's going on here? I must be delusional, because I remember in the beginning, one of my dear friends, one of my closest girlfriends, she's amazing. She's super smart. She has an incredible position. She has access to really good information, with what's going on also a little bit in the world. And she called me like all the time, and she said, because she loves me, she's like, Franziska, have you stocked up on snacks? Is your cupboard full? You need to get canned food. You need to get frozen. She gave me a whole list. She sent me WhatsApp messages. You need to get frozen mangoes. You need to get canned food. I'm like, I don't even like frozen mangoes and canned food. No. So I didn't stack up on anything. Also, toilet paper, it was too late. By the time I thought maybe I should get toilet paper, there was no toilet paper anyway. So there was a moment where I'm like, I'm really not preparing for anything here. I'm just working away and focusing on the business and keeping everyone safe. And I'm not eating different things. I'm buying still the food that I like and fresh and vegetables, and I, buy the stuff when I need it. And then I had moments of doubt where I'm like, am I missing something? Because one of my best friends, who is incredibly smart and knows what's going on a little bit too, I don't read a lot of media, is telling me that I need to buy stuff. And she was super prepared. But then I thought, you know what? She's so prepared. She has like so much food at home. If something happens, I'll just go eat at her.
I was thinking exactly like you, because I guess living in Vietnam, I live with very nothing. So I knew that, and we used newspaper as toilet paper back then. So I'm like, worst case, I'll be resourceful.
Want to make a difference in others' lives? Join us in providing food, medical supplies, and daily living necessities to tribal communities living in extreme poverty in the Philippines. For as little as $50, you can feed a whole village and have peace of mind that 100% of your donations goes directly to those in need. Be a part of our OA Love projects and visit outsourcingangel.com.
So what's your background? What made you think like that? Because I know my drive has come from almost poverty to, and then now I can do anything. What is your drive or the way you think?
Such a great question. My mom would say, when I grew up as a kid, she would often say, I'm a little bit naive. I actually don't think it's that. So for a long time I thought, oh yeah, I guess I'm naive, because she would always say, you're so naive, in terms of like trusting. That's what it comes back to. When I wrote this latest book I told you about, I suddenly had this epiphany that it's, you know what, it's not really naive. It's just that I trust that things work out, and it's not really being stupid, because when things get serious, I will prepare. Almost like, so growing up, I know I always trusted strangers when I felt like I can. I spoke to people. I go with the flow a lot more. I guess it's the thinking comes also from, I'm very okay with unpredictability. In fact, I love unpredictability. I guess that's why we are also in business, right? Because it's unpredictable. And so I thrive a little bit on unpredictability, whereas other people, like my brother, for example, they need certainty. He needs to have a job where he knows money's coming in. And I don't know how prepared he was with food and stuff. He seemed pretty relaxed when I spoke to him. But I think that's more that. But then I realized that it's not so much that I'm naive. It's more that I trust that when I can, and my intuition, and I trust that things work out. And then, like I did think, I'm like, okay, if worst comes to worst, and there really is no food, and I don't have any food because I didn't prepare, I do live on the beach here. I can go fishing. Not that I don't want to kill fish. Eat fish, but there are fish in the ocean here. You work it out, right? Actually, it's something that my mom said. I said, hey, I spoke to her a lot because she's 70 and in Switzerland, they're close to borders a lot. She was super relaxed, which was quite impressive. And I said to her, the toilet paper situation here is not so good. It's like, Just use newspaper.
Worst case, you can always wash it with water or whatever it is, right? But overall, so did you always have that belief, that faith that you knew you were going to be successful as well? Like you just knew that success was going to come. It's just a matter of when.
I always ask myself, what is success? So I'm going to be successful in terms of having resources or financial resources. It's more, I think, that I always ask myself, what is success for me? And is it money? And it wasn't so much money, the driver. It's more freedom. So I feel like even as
I have a word freedom on my arm.
I love that. I got a feather here, which is the symbol for
freedom. But yeah, we're big on freedom, and that's why we work remotely. And yeah,
one of my best friends has actually in Switzerland a tattoo like "Your Success Freedom." It's really gorgeous.
Mm-hmm.
Get it in her. And so success for me was more like, okay, how do I know I'm successful? I'm successful if I have freedom. And so I feel like even when I had no money, when I was in my 20s, when I was actually 19, 20, I worked a lot through high school to afford traveling. So I just went to South America for 3 months to travel backpacking, basically on a very, very small money because I had no money and like, sleeping in dodgy places. And that for me was success. But I had freedom. So I'm like, I'm so successful. Like for me internally, I'm like not talking about it, but just I feel like I'm successful. And then only when I started working in advertising and I had a regular job, I didn't so much think that I'm not successful. I just felt like something is missing. And I didn't know what it was at the time until later when I realized it's because I didn't have freedom anymore. Because I had someone to report to. I had to be there at a certain time. And that really...
Yeah. Whoa. So, when it comes to freedom, it's my biggest value because I was deprived of freedom from my own parents. They were very controlling and all. What was your reason? Is there like a lack of freedom, or what is that drive for freedom that made you strive for it?
That's a great question. I'm not 100% sure, but when I do think about growing up, Switzerland is quite conformist society. So my parents actually were pretty cool with freedom. They actually did allow me quite a lot of freedom, and maybe not so much my dad, but he was never really there. But my mom was quite open-minded, even when I was a teen and I was partying a lot. Actually, dad never liked it, but he just didn't really know what was going on. My mom is like, okay, I guess she's coming home or not tonight. And she was pretty cool, and I was quite the party girl in my late teens, early 20s. And so that's not so much that I didn't have it, I think. But then when I was 16 and I lived in Costa Rica for a year with a Costa Rican family. And oh my God, I had zero freedom because I just wanted to keep me alive. I was 16 years old in a new country, learning the language. And I mean, Costa Ricans, I was pretty much the meat in the streets that is easy to go. My family just wanted to keep me safe. And so I had zero freedom. And it was the best year, but it was also incredibly challenging because I had to be home at 16. I mean, in Switzerland, I was partying at 16. I had to be home at 6 o'clock at night. I wasn't allowed to go out a lot. We had to sneak out with my sister, my host sister. Anyway, but then, so that was definitely a challenge. And Switzerland as a society is quite rules driven. And I feel like maybe that made me realize that, oh, wow, this is so conformist. I don't want to be so conformist. So maybe that was one of the drivers.
Yeah. Excellent. Excellent answer. So your book, actually, I wanted to talk about your book actually before I continue to talk about the basic banana. Yeah, share with me your latest book. What is it about?
Yeah, so this latest one here is called The Courage Map. Mm-hmm. It came out in start of May this year, 2020. And it took me almost 2 years from start to finish with all, then working with a publisher and getting this baby to be amazing. And it started actually a few years before. So a few years before, and it's so funny, I was just talking to the guys who hired me to go work at Mind Valley as a publisher. So Mind Valley brought me over to Malaysia to record a program on being bold. I know the founder I mentioned to you earlier, Vision.
So you're going to be one of the program there, like a course? Because I have the all access Mind Valley thing and I do courses all the time.
I don't have any access and I'm not a million. But I have a few programs. There's one on the Quest. One that's the bold one, I think, is on the Quest app.
Oh, okay. I'll check it out again. Maybe it is there and I missed it. Okay, yep.
Yeah, someone just told me the other day they found it. So it should be on the Quest, I think. And then one with Archid on the Ever Coaching one. We did a workshop program. Anyway, so a few years ago, I went to Malaysia to record this one on being bold. And it was just because I think Vision, knew me, and then his team said, hey, you want to do something? I said, sure. And that's where it started. I'm like, oh, this topic, I really like it, and I like talking about it. And so then 2 years ago, I started a motorcycle trip from Switzerland to Kazakhstan along the Silk Road. And it was one of the most challenging adventures I've ever been on. And one of my friends joined me. And he said, Mike, he said, hey, he asked me the question, hey, are you never scared? I mean, do you not have fear? It's just the way that you know, interact with people and how you operate. I'm like, yeah, of course I have fear. You know, it's a human reaction, and I definitely have it. I just still take action despite the fear. And so he said, hey, you should maybe write a book on this. So that's where I started writing the Courage Map, is on this trip.
Wow. Is there a certain number of steps that it takes for people to get out? And what's the result? It's like, from someone that's fearful, after you read the book, like what's the result you're aiming to get for people?
Yeah, so the book has 13 principles, and you know, I'm not saying you need to embrace them all, but each of these principles are here to support people. It doesn't matter, you know, how fearful or not fearful you are helping people to have more courage and to be courageous despite the fear. And what I talk about in the book is that we all have courage boundaries, and they're different in different areas. You know, my courage boundaries might be quite large in one area, but maybe they're really small in a different area. Like, for example, a bit better now, but I used to be a little bit not amazing at facing difficult conversations. I would just conflict a little bit. And so that in that area, my courage boundary was really tiny. So there are principles that I could apply and use to help me to expand that courage boundary in that area. And what I'm saying is that different people have different boundaries, and no matter where you're at, you can grow them.
So would you say it's like a muscle? The more fears you face, the easier it gets, right?
Totally. And you know how you get older, often also the more existential fears are more prevalent. So for example, I look at my own life, you know, when I was in my 20s, I was maybe borderline reckless, but I would surf bigger waves and I would do more crazy adventures. And then as you get a little bit older, you get a little bit more conscious about the risks. And so now I just need to, when I notice that if I go for a surf and the surf is a little bit big and I'm like, oh, should I go out? I have to sometimes push myself and like, no, I can definitely do this. I'm not risking my life here. I can do it. It's just I need to go out anyway.
I guess when we're older, we have more to lose, right? When we're young, we have nothing to lose. But now, especially when I have kids and you have a business to say, you're like, okay, what will happen? But yeah. All right. Because I promise you it's going to be a half an hour thing. So I'm going to go to my next segment. This is called the high five. So I'm asking you 5 questions where you choose this or that so that we get to know you personally more, right? So easy questions. Don't be afraid. Number 1, banana cake or banana smoothie?
Smoothie.
Oh, I forgot the other rule is to elaborate on your answers.
Banana smoothie. Here's the funny story. I don't really like bananas. When we started this business, I've never been a fan of bananas. So I don't eat bananas except in smoothies. I love banana smoothies. I just feel like eating a banana is like a baby. You know, this.
I'm glad I asked that question because when obviously she likes banana, that's why, you know. But then it's good to know you don't even like banana. But yeah. All right. Number 2, crazy in love or crazy rich?
Crazy in love. Yeah, but I just think love is one of my number 1 values. Actually, this is my number 1 value. It's love, trust, freedom, and courage, and impact. And love, I just think love is the most amazing thing in the world. And it's not just love, romantic love, but love for anything. Yeah. Yesterday, I was sitting here. It was raining so hard here in Sydney. And there were 2 little lorikeets on my balcony. And they looked a little bit wet, the poor guys. So I gave them some food and they came down and they were eating the seeds. And then they were sitting next to each other on the railing. I was watching them forever. You know, normally birds sit like a little bit apart. They were sitting close and they were like, you know, pecking.
Yeah.
Love, like these guys are in love and this is like beautiful. I just think love is everywhere and love is the most beautiful thing ever.
Do you know that's my number 1 value too? And my company, if you look at it, it's love. That's because I read the book called Your One Word from Evan Carmichael, and it's really about finding your one word, and it was love.
But I love that. And yeah, I can see why you would love that.
All right, number 3, whales or dolphins?
Oh my God, this is a tough one, but I'll go for dolphins. I love them both. I go for dolphins because I think dolphins are just, they're fun, they're playful. We have a lot of dolphins going past my house here and I always watch them. They're just cheeky. And they stay together in a school. and they're very loyal. Whales often you see alone cruising around. Dolphins are together and they play with each other. They come out and do jumps out of the water, and they're very, 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 very intelligent.
Awesome answer. And I didn't even get a chance to talk about your whole, philanthropy Number 5, I think this is fourth, meditation or journaling?
Meditation. I do both. I love journaling too. I definitely meditate every day. So meditation is a thing I do every day, and I don't always do it at the same time. I don't always do it the same way. Sometimes I sit, sometimes I lie, sometimes I'm on the beach, sometimes I'm in bed waking up and then fall back asleep. So call this meditation. And I love meditation. It's just a way to connect again with myself. And I journal when I need answers. So I journal, but I journal more when I'm going through a challenge.
Awesome. Final one, singing or dancing?
I'd say dancing. I enjoy singing, but I'm not very good. We have a band and I do a little bit of the harmonies. I'm not the main singer, and I'm not a very good singer. And dancing, I would go for dancing because I just love dancing. I often dance on my own. Anytime when I need a little bit of an energy lifter, if I just pump the music and even just dance to get ready, I love it. I love moving.
Awesome. All right. Okay, that's the high 5 questions there. Well, I've just got 2 questions for you. But before I go to my next 2 questions, how do people connect with you?
Yeah, so the best place is either on my personal website, which is Franziska Iseli, or Basic Bananas. So if the viewer is a business owner, I recommend you go to basicbananas.com, and on there we have a ton of free resources. We run virtual summits that are for free. We have a PJ party, which we started because of COVID, which is a weekly session on a specific topic to help people. So there's a ton of resource there.
Awesome.
And social media, LinkedIn. I don't always check all my LinkedIn messages, but one of my team is. So if you
it seems like you make learning and marketing so fun. It's like even the name says it, bananas, all right? All right, my last 2 questions for you. Since it's the Kind Boss podcast, what does the kind boss mean to you?
A kind boss, wow. I think kindness is one of the most important traits of a leader. And in the book, it's actually one of the principles too, is kindness. And a kind boss is someone who always responds with kindness. Doesn't mean that you can't be firm. So as a boss, you can be firm and you have to sometimes be firm and you have to give guidance, but you can always, no matter what, even if somebody makes the biggest mistake or is really challenged or challenging you, I feel like this mantra of always responding with kindness is what makes a kind boss.
Beautiful said. Yes, kindness doesn't mean too nice or weak.
No.
Good one. Last question for you. What do you want the world to remember you for?
I would love people to remember me for someone who was living true to myself, and also for someone who made an impact with everything that I do. So my personal mission right now, and this might change again, but right now, my personal mission is to create ripple effects, create positive impact through entrepreneurship. So leveraging business, especially, to make an impact in different areas.
Lovely. Well, thank you so much for your time, Franziska. I really enjoyed it. I wish I could have more time and talk to you more. I'm sure I'm going to pick your brains again. And I'm glad we live in Sydney, so I'll be catching up with you. But thank you.
My pleasure. Thank you for doing what you're doing. And thank you for having me.
Thank you for joining our podcast today. We hope this interview has inspired and humbled you to be a kind boss. Please don't forget to subscribe to our channel and let us know what you think about our show. If you have any questions, please visit outsourcingangel.com. Until then, stay kind and spread love.